Hello, everyone. My name is Tim B. Green, and this is Crush It Club episode 40, Synthesis Fixes Satisficing. So satisficing is a combination of satisfy and suffice, I believe, if memory suffices. And essentially what it means is we tend to compromise, especially in terms of things like innovation, where, well, it can be incredibly strong, but then it has to be expensive. Or it can be inexpensive, but it's going to be made of cheap plastic. So what happens is we tend to think in terms of or. So in other words, inexpensive or strong. Instead, what 𝗟𝗲𝗍 suggests in Winning the Brain Game, this is, I believe, the fourth. Yeah, this is the fourth of the fixes for the 7 flaws of thinking. So 4 of 7. And he suggests what we do is we combine the best of multiple options. So we go through the sort of processes we talked about in previous videos. You come up with multiple elegant solutions. But if some solutions, which is often the case, along the way to this superior solution, to a more elegant solution, you find that, well, again, it's got to be cheap or it's going to be strong, but it can't be both. So do you make 2 products? Well, maybe, or you find a way to combine the best features of the plastic with the best features of the stronger version. So an example of that might be saying, well, okay, carbon fiber is expensive and plastic is cheap, but if we use carbon fiber short filaments, shredded filaments, which is maybe even compared to the, I can't remember what the term is they use for the longer carbon fiber threads, but it could well be that the longer carbon fiber threads are more expensive. I believe they are. The continuous filament, whereas the chopped up ones would be cheaper. So you could go, okay, why don't we combine the carbon fiber and inject it with the cheap plastic, but use short filaments, short segments of carbon fiber instead of continuous cloth, which is far more expensive. That would be an example of synthesis, where you take the option of the carbon fiber, but you use a much cheaper option because it would be recycled carbon fiber that is probably going to be a lot less cost, and cheap plastic. Then you mix them together and then you mold them. So that would be an example of synthesis. So taking the best parts of 2 ideas and combining them into one idea, which would be at least cheaper and strong. Now I want to go back to what I'm going to start to think about calling this my co-host, since it's such a good example. So this glass is double-walled, as you can plainly see, I think. And double walls with an empty space, which causes or produces an insulating effect, means I can hold my hot tea with no problem at all. But what's so elegant about this solution, and why I love this cup for hot drinks, is it combines, it's a perfect example of synthesis, because really what happens, most insulated cups are made of plastic. And because they're made of plastic, they're hard to clean and they get stained. So they're maybe not as sanitary or safe, or you're worried about BPAs. Is it BPAs? You're worried about toxic leaching from the plastic, and you go, if it was only glass, I know glass is really stable and safe and easy to clean and will last forever as long as you don't smash it against something, right? So this is kind of where this glass comes in pretty brilliantly. It has an insulating property because it has the hollow space in between. So it's got the insulation of a normally plastic glass, but it's got the ability to clean it and be sanitary and long wearing and see-through, and many other properties you might like to have in a glass. So you can look at the color of your tea and make sure it's the color you want it, to make sure it's strong enough, whatever it is. So not only is it transparent and sanitary and long wearing because it's glass, but because of the design, it has insulation built into it. So that's an example of taking, well, insulated glass and, or sorry, insulated cup or mug and glass, but isn't insulated, combining those two elements and creating one superior solution. That's the essence of synthesis, is taking the best properties. Now, May talks about using two. I think, ironically enough, and this is going to get meta, that satisficing, saying take only the best elements of two ideas, is itself an example of satisficing. What if you have 10 great ideas and you can take the best elements from all 10? I'm not saying that's simple, but the point is, if you can go beyond, okay, let's take our best two ideas and combine the best elements of both to make a superior solution, to make a superior training system. Well, for example, for myself with my neurocognitive training, every time I read another book, I think about how I can combine it. So I've taken the fundamental challenge wheel, an alarm's going off. I've combined the fundamental pedagogy of the challenge wheel from a book called Brain-Centric Design, which I really like. But then I've added Cialdini's 7 Levers of Influence. Plus, since then, I've read Daniel Kahneman's Noise and found at least one element from Noise, in fact, 2 elements from Noise, which could also be integrated into this framework. I actually call it an event funnel. That is like a webinar, a Zoom event, or something like that, a summit for that matter, where the actual structure of the event increases the retention and the conversion. So it's basically a webinar that doesn't suck, that also converts. So since doing that, I combined the best elements from Brain-Centric Design plus Cialdini's 7 Levers of Influence, and I put those together and made something that's already better than anything else I have ever seen in a web event in a training program, bar none. And I've seen quite a few of these events, which most of the time are honestly kind of lame because nobody's really thought about the structure, the pedagogy. It's just like, here's my stuff, here's some information on it. Will you buy it? No. And that too, the sort of appropriate use of social media where you're giving up front and giving value, whether they buy or not. Now, since then, I've added 2 elements from Daniel Kahneman's book, Noise, and from this book too. There's pieces of this that I could also integrate, or all of them I can integrate. So instead of saying, well, you can have this, or you can have this, so you can have this and this, the best features of two solutions which are okay, but have sacrifices, and minimize those sacrifices. I'm going to take it a step further than May did and say, combining the best 2 isn't enough. I would say combine perhaps the best 2 at any one time, and then add more elements as you can. Combine the best 10 if it's at all possible. Now, there's some balance between the extreme of taking a million best solutions and 2 best solutions, and there's an optimal place. Now, my guess is it's a pretty low number, but I think it can be higher than 2 because I've already done that. So that's really it. Synthesis is taking 2 or more, 2 or more ideas which have compromises which are kind of unacceptable, taking the best elements of both or more, or 3 or more, combining them together to get the best of all worlds you can possibly do. Does it mean you're going to get the very best of all of them? Not necessarily, because you can't make this easily unbreakable as glass, though I have some ideas how to do that. There is going to be some compromising at some point, but the idea is to get the best possible solution from many solutions which have inferior drawbacks or unacceptable drawbacks and superior solutions. Combine the best of all worlds. That is Crush It Club episode 40. Synthesis fixes satisficing. My name is Tim B. Green. Bye for now.